Good day, everybody. I hope that you are well and also hope that you are having a good day so far. Today, we'll be doing our grade 1 English lesson on verb tense. And before we start, we're going to log on to aplusstudents.ca. Once you've logged on to aplusstudents.ca with our username as well as our password, and then we're going to select the subject of English language arts. We're doing grade 1, and then we're going to scroll down up until we get to our chapter of verb tense. All right. So our chapter is verb tense. Our subject is English language arts. We're doing grade 1. And the lessons that we are going to be focusing on under the chapter of verb tense is to select the sentence that tell you about the present, and to select the sentence that tells you about the past. All right. So when it comes to verb tenses, right? Before we even go to what a verb is, right? A tense. When we think of tenses or we hear the word tenses, right? Or tense, and then it is either present tense, it's either past tense, or it is future tense. That is tense. Either present tense, past tense, or future tense. So now if you look at if you put verb tense together, then firstly, verb is a doing word. It's an action that someone does or something does. And verb tense tells you either something that happens in the past, something that happens in the present, or something that happens in the future. And if we first want to talk about the past, right? You see, if you think about something that you're doing now, firstly, so remember, verb tense is like, for example, if we talk about the present tense, if we're talking about something that we're doing now, the fact that you are listening, right? That is something that you're doing. So I listen, I talk, I eat, I dance, something that you're doing now. I play with my Xbox or I play with my PSP. I read a book. That is all the things you're doing now. And then in the past, there's things that you did already. It happened already. And when we, for example, make mention of our past, right? Then if you have your verb, then all you do is you add an ed to that verb to show the past tense. So some verbs, we said it tells you about something that has happened already, that is in the past, it's past tense. And like we said, these verbs tell you about the past, which is your past tense. And if we, for example, make mention of a verb that's in the past tense that happened already, whether something happened today, earlier on. So whether something happened today, whether it happened this afternoon, whether it happened this morning, it is not in the past, right? So our verb will end with ed. We're doing verb tenses. So today we're doing verb tense. So if you want to show that something has happened already, it happened already, which is in the past, then our verb ends with an ed. And an example of that is we walked to the store yesterday. So we walked to the store yesterday, and they are underlined the verb walked, meaning that our verb in the present, like something that we did now, would be walk. I walk to the store, or we walk to the store. But now, if you want to show the past tense, we just add an ed to show we walked in the past to the store. The show started last week. The show started last week. We can just say the show start now. But in the past, we say the show started. So we just add an ed. Right? So this is basically the past tense. It shows that something happened already or it had happened already. And then some of our verbs, they tell you about something that is happening now. Anything that happens now is present. It's in the present. It's now. It's in the present. So anything that you're doing now, it means that it is in the present. Like I talk to you guys now. You listen to me now. That's something that you're doing now. And if we look at an example of the present tense, and with the present tense, right? The present tense have no ending or they just end in S. Depending on if one person is doing something or more than one person is doing something. And an example is we walk to school today. And if we were to identify our verb, then we would say it's walk, something that we're doing now. So, walk is something that we're doing now. We are doing it's an action. The parade starts now. And starts something that it's happening now. And this is the present tense. It's something that is happening now. And then we have the future tense. Something that happens in the future, meaning that it must still happen. Anything that's in the future, tomorrow is also the future because it didn't start yet, it didn't happen yet. So anything that did not happen yet and it must still happen, that is the future. And some verbs, they tell you about something that is going to happen. So some verbs tell you about something that is going to happen, meaning that it did not happen yet. It is not happening now. It is going to happen. It must still happen. And the verb that tells us that something is going to happen, meaning it must still happen, we call that the future tense. These are verbs that tell us about the future, meaning it must still happen. And like I say, tomorrow can be the future, next week can be the future, the day after tomorrow can be the future, the weekend can be the future, next month is the future, next year is the future. Something that must still happen is the future. And when it comes to the future, right? Or us making mention of the verb that tells us about the future that must still happen, right? Then we need to use the word will in front of our verb. And an example of that is we will walk, because walk is something that you're doing. But now in the future, we will walk. We're not walking now. We did not walk in the past. We will walk to the park next week. We will walk. So will walk is in the future or shows the future. And the next one says the party will start. It did not start yet. I did not start it, but it will start soon. Meaning it must still happen. It will start soon. And that basically shows us the future tense. So remember something that did not happen yet and it must still happen. Something that did not happen yet and it must still happen. That is in the future. It tells us about the future. All right. And then once again, when it comes to our verb tense, and like we said, we talk about the present tense, something that is happening now. When it comes to the past tense is something that happened already or it had happened already. And then we have the future tense, and that basically tells us about something that will happen. It is going to happen. All right. So now, if we look at an example, right? If I look at another example of a present tense or of a past tense or even of a future tense, then if we look at the past tense first, we can say, let's use the word Jack play soccer. So we can say Jack play or played soccer, plays soccer. So he plays soccer. And if we were to identify our verb within the sentence, we would say it is plays or play. And then we use that very same sentence, right? And we're not going to use it same sentence, but in the past tense. And then we say Jack played. We added an ed, soccer. Shows something that he did, something that happened already. And then if we use that very same sentence, right? But now we're going to use it in the future tense. We can say Jack will play soccer. Because now it shows something that needs to still happen or will still happen. He will play, right? All right, so now we're going to aplusstudents.ca. And we're going to select the sentence that tells you about the present. And we're also going to select the sentence that tells you about the past. All right. And once again, we said some verbs that tell you about something that has already happened. And these verbs tell you about the past and they end in ed. And once again, these are the examples. We walked to the store and it ends with an ed. And then the show started last week. Then started is something that happened in the past. And then some verbs that tell us about something that is happening now. Anything that is happening now is the present tense. And the present tense, they usually have no ending or the ending is. For example, we walk to school today. Something that is happening now. We're walking now. The parade starts now. Something that is happening now. And in the future tense is something that is going to happen, and we use the word will in front of our verb. All right, so now we're going to our test where we're going to select the sentence that tells you about the present tense. So we're going to the test. We need to say which sentence tells you about the present, something that is happening now. The present, something that is happening now. It says she thinks about her trip all the time. She thinks about her trip all the time. Option one. Option two, we will paint our room blue. Option three, we were going to go to the pool. Or option four, I washed the dishes. We need to choose the correct option that tells us about the present, something that is happening now, something that someone is doing now. So, which one is our, or which sentence tells us about the present? Something that is happening now. And if we were to select the sentence that tells us about the present, something that is happening now, then we can say option one, she thinks about a trip all the time. It is something that she's doing now all the time. So option one is correct. We need to select the sentence that tells us about the present, something that is happening now, the present tense. Yes, well done. Option one is correct. Well done. Now we're by number two, and we need to select also the sentence that tells us about the past. It says, I will walk to the zoo, option one. I live in that yellow house, option two. He walked the dog, option three. Or Robin will be joining us, option 4. Which one is correct? That tells us about the present. The present. And if we were to select the sentence that tells us about the present, then yes, we can say option 2. I live in that yellow house. It's like asking somebody now, where do you live? They will tell you, I live in that yellow house. Not They did not live there in the past. They're living there now. I live in that yellow house. So option 2 is correct. Well done. Option 2 is correct. All right. The next one says, which sentence tells about the present? Is it option 1, Liz and her friends jump high? Option 2, I will talk to Nina. Is it option 3, she lived in Paris? Or is it option 4, they watched that movie at the cinema? Which option is correct? Option 1, 2, 3, or 4? In the present tense, something that is happening now, the present tense. Option 3 says she lived, meaning it's in the past. We need the present tense, the present tense. And if we were to select the correct option that tells us which sentence tells us about the present, the sentence that tells us about the present, we can say it's option 1. Liz and her friends jump high. It's something that they're doing now. They jump high. Something that they're doing now. So option 1 is correct. Option 1. All right, the next one says, which sentence tells us about the present? Is it option one? She pulled a rabbit out of her hat. She pulled a rabbit out of her hat. Is option two, John was lost in the ocean? Is it option three, our dog wags his tail? Or is it option four, I walked home from school often? Which one is correct? Option one, option two, option three, or option four? So, which sentence tells us about the present? Option one, she pulled a rabbit out of her hat, sorry. Option two, John was lost in the ocean. Option three, our dog wags his tail. Or option four, I walked home from school often. Which one is correct? And if we were to select the correct option, then we will say it's option three. It's something that the dog is doing now. He wags his tail. Remember, we said with present tense, it shows a continuous thing, so it can either end with an S. The our verb ends with an X. Wags his tail. All right. Before we go to the past tense, let's the last one for the present tense. We need to select the sentence that tells us about the present, something that is happening now. Something that is happening now. And it says, she lived for a long time, option one. Option two says, she ran around the bushes. Option three, Robin will be joining us. Or option four, they will play soccer on that field. We need to select the correct option. The present tense. Something that is happening now. If you read that sentence, it must make sense as if it is now. Do we say she lived there for a long time? Option one. Do we say option two, we run around the bushes? Option three, Robin will be joining us. Or option four, they will play soccer on that field. Which one is correct? The present tense, something that is happening now. And if we were to select the correct option, right, that shows that it is in the present, we can say we run around the bushes. What are you doing now? We run around the bushes. Something that you're doing now. Option two is correct. So now we can select the sentence that tells us about the past. It happened already. And remember, if it tells us about the past, then our verb ends with an ed. We add an ed to our verb to show the past tense. It says some verbs tell us about something that happened already, and that verbs are in the past. They usually end with ed. Like, for example, walked, started, played, danced, jumped, right? Those are verbs that tells us about the past. So now we're going to our test. It says which sentence tells us about the past? Is it option one, the party just started? Option two, we will work very hard. Option three, the dog is barking. Or option four, grandma will make the cake. Which one is correct? All right. And if we were to select the correct option that tells us about something that is in the past, then we can say the party just started. Start. And that is in the past. Well done. Option one is correct. The next one says, which sentence tells us about the past? Which sentence tells us about the past? They ride their bikes to the store. Option two, we laughed at the silly picture. Option three, we will walk to the party. Or option four, grandma is making dinner now. Which one shows the past tense? The past tense. something that happened in the past. In the past. And if we were to select the correct option that tells us about the past, then we can say we laughed at the silly picture. We laughed. It's something that they did. Yes, well done. Option two. We laughed at the silly picture. So well done. Option two is correct. All right. The next one says, which sentence tells us about the past? Is it option one, I hear people at the door? So the past tense, is it option one, I hear people at the door? Option two, she loved my song about animals. Option three, grandpa is fishing. Or option four, we will take the dog to the vet tomorrow. Which is correct? That tells us about the past. In the past, that ends with ed. Our verb ends with ed. All right. And if we were to select the correct option, right, that tells us about the past, and then we can say she loved my song about animals. She loved my song about animals. And that is option two, loved. That is why you need to look at the verb. You see, like here, the verb ends with ed or d, and that shows our past tense. So, oopsie, loved my song about animals. All right, so this is now the end of our lesson on verb tenses. Remember, we said when it comes to verb tenses, verb shows the action that is being done. But now when we talk about verb tenses, then we talk about the action that is being done either in the present tense, now, in the past tense, it happened already, or in the future tense. So in the present tense, now, in the past tense, which happened already in the past, or in the future tense that will still happen. All right, so this is the end of our lesson. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining the class. Thank you for your answers. Thank you for interacting, and I really hope you're going to have a good day further. Goodbye.